Hello, Kirby again, as we launch into the 14th episode of Zoo Crew Revue, where we will be reviewing the 13th issue of Captain Carrot and his amazing zoo crew, and pair it with the classic Looney Tunes short, The High and the Flighty. Our cover is pencil inked by Scott Shaw as always. Just when you thought it was safe to play in the snow, Captain Carrot and his amazing zoo crew go cold turkey. Haven't they already done this Jaws bit on another cover? Our cover depicts the zoo crew battling against a gigantic form of our issue's villain, Cold Turkey. And while this does not happen in the issue, it is nice to see most of them displaying their powers as they face their foe. While he in turn unleashes a giant cold blast, freezing pig iron in his tracks, where Fastback quips, any of y'all for a pig in a snow blanket? And half freezes out a stretched out rubber duck. And if I got to pick the cover for an omnibus of this series, and I did not use the cover to issue 1, I would probably pick this as a cover because it follows all of my rules for good comic book trade dress. For team books especially, it shows most, if not all of the team. Everyone is clearly identifiable. Superpowers are properly showcased, and the art is reflective of what's on the inside as a whole. And if this cover served as the omnibus cover, it would probably give some meaningful contribution to this series as a whole. And yeah, I'm really not going to bury the lead on this one. And let's begin with our pertinent data for this issue. Foul Weather has a cover date of March 1983 and on sale date of December 30th, 1982. Our story is plotted by E. Nelson Bridwell, scripted by Scott Shaw, penciled by Stan Goldberg, and let's put an asterisk in that because I think only half of this issue is him. Inked by Al Gordon, lettered by Kerry Spiegel, colored by Thomas J. Zucco, and edited by Roy Thomas, whom also gets co-credit for creating Cold Turkey, but I cannot imagine why he would want to advertise that. Our issue opens with Captain Carrot in mid-hop over the hills of Follywood, commenting on how he cannot get used to the California heat waves in midwinter, but when he lands for his next jump, he trips, tumbling head over foot with his speech balloons following suit, only to realize when he gets his bearings, sizzle and celery! Snow? Either this carrot's gone bananas, or Southern California is having its first blizzard! Back at the former Zoo Crew HQ, or Bird Rental's house, Bird is trying to get a doggy nights evening going with 3 comely female fans by his poolside, but Rova has decided to crash the party. And just as Bird makes a swan dive off the diving board to impress the ladies, the blizzard rushes in, Rova yelling in shock, "In fact, everything's cooling it! What an exclusive! A snowstorm on the hottest day of the year!" As Bird crashes into his now frozen pool. "You'd better stick to the society page, kiddo. As a weather forecaster, Rova Bucket's barking up the wrong tree. Yow!" The crash is so hard, it literally gets Bird's beak out of shape. And Rova covers from subtly using her superpowers as he snaps it back into shape. And credit where it's due for this issue. Once again, the series does take care for maintaining secret identities, and Rova then makes an excuse for her and Bird to leave, knowing whatever is happening is a job for Rubber Duck and Yankee Poodle. So she is becoming more and more of a hero and less of a gossipy hen glory hound. Our next page cuts to an interesting pairing of Timmy Joe Terrapin and Felina Fur at the Follywood Bowl attending a Bob Hoopo show. This is a pretty clever pun, and they found a more interesting and unique bird that easily works towards making a Bob Hope riff, and maybe Shaw saw the bird in National Geographic and the pun just clicked in his head, and Goldberg does a good job of drawing the bird in the series style. "Pretty nice of Rubber Duck, our main bird, to give us a pair of tickets for this here show. And judging by the size of this crowd, I'd imagine they were hard to come by, too. Yep, scarcer than hen's teeth, but with Bird's connections. Sides, this Bob Hoopo's first public performance in years. Stateside, that is. I figured I'd have to enlist to see him in person." Folks, there's going to be a lot of bad classic celebrity impressions throughout this episode, so please, just know that I tried. As Bob Hoopo opens his show, "Hiya, folks. This is Bob Ski Beak Hoopo. How y'all like this hot spell we've been having, huh? I don't want to say it's hot, but I saw an ice cream vendor selling puddles on a stick. So a nice reference to Hope's old ski nose. And Fastback is the first to notice the snow soon freezing out the audience, and Bob, who can only think to himself while he's shivering, I haven't been this cold since I made the Road to Euphoria with Bing Crosby and Dorothy Lamigear. As we are then treated to an appropriate parody scene in a thought balloon, and I like the reference, but I don't think the joke itself is that good, and we definitely didn't need the extra thought balloon to go along with it. And the road to Zebra Bar was right there. Jimmy Joe gets everyone's attention to the cause of the blizzard, as our villain, Cold Turkey, makes his debut, with his lackeys, the Snowbirds, in tow, and great name, so costume, and zero personality, which is the biggest downfall of this issue. He's not really a parody of any supervillain, nor celebrity, and with the Bob Hope jokes and the upcoming Marx Brothers jokes, they could have easily made him a parody of another classic comedian just so we would have something to glom onto. And all I would be looking for is like a 1 or 2 panel of like that origin, and along with some better dialogue to kind of capitalize on the parody idea of any comedian, anyone. But instead, he's just the most nothing villain we've had in this series to date. I'm just imagining Jack Benny just to give myself something to work with. Face the frigid facts, fools. I've turned your heat wave into a crime wave. As the audience is getting panicked and robbed, our heroes switch into their costumes and make short work of the henchmen. Well, if it's up to me, that glacial gobbler's goons won't lay a talon on anybody's valuables. Well, the worst thing that'll happen to me is a bad case of frostbitten knuckles. Come on, fellers! Take a number so I can slug y'all better! As Alley Cat starts handing back the stolen jewelry, Fastback gets her attention that they completely forgot about Cold Turkey, which, come on, both of them are better than that. This makes no sense. And Cold Turkey just gloats. But I, on the other hand, haven't forgotten about you, Zoo Crew, as in the least. But still, I must be trotting off to inventory my frozen assets, you know? As our two heroes lunge towards him, never mind, Fastback, let's defrost this gloating gobbler. You betcha, it's time to play Turkey in the Thaw! Only for the both of them to collide into an ice mirror projection of the villain. In Fastback's Turkey in the Thaw might be the best cold joke in this whole issue, and Alley Catabra, you don't actually have to jump towards the villain. You have your magic. You have range. What were you thinking? This is just another frustration I have with this issue. We cut back to the Z building to catch up with our final zoo crewer, Pig Iron, as he sits on the couch with a huge snack while watching TV, as Captain Carrot bursts in, asking Pig Iron if he's noticed the snow, and Pig Iron wonders if he means the static on the TV, which is a joke that would be lost on kids today. And even I don't actually remember having to deal with static on the TV from like antennas and whatnot. I just kind of know it from, relatives and references on, TV and whatnot. Only for the captain to finally snap and yell, "Hardly, Hamhead! In case you hadn't noticed, Los Angeles is tail deep in snow. The white cold kind. We've got a full-blown blizzard on our paws." Which I have to wonder if that's a sly cocaine joke. They are in Follywood after all. Pig Iron finds himself literally frozen in the couch, only to break the ice as Yankee Poodle and Rubber Duck come bursting into the room, Yankee Poodle yelling, "Roger, have I got a newsflash for you? If it's about the blizzard, you're too late, Rover. We know. And call me Rodney, okay? Or better yet, Captain." And while they have been laying the groundwork for the name change for a while, there is no explanation for it in this issue itself. Even I thought it would sound better would have sufficed for me. Another opportunity just wasted in this issue. And I'm wondering if production on the movie was starting to pick up steam around this time, and that's why they finally made the break. As resident news anchor Tom Snidehair reports on the blizzard of unknown origin, Fastback and Alley Catabra make the team whole, informing the rest of them of Cold Turkey, and the page ends with quips as the zoo crew can just stare out the window into the blizzard, unsure of where Cold Turkey will strike next, or what he's even capable of. The alarm of the Zoo Viewer Crime Pewter system goes off, and Captain Carrot hops over to work the system as the rest crowd around the small screen, zeroing in on the robbery of a jewel exhibit. There! The jewelry exhibit at the Museum of Ostentatious Wealth in Beverly Hills. Jewelry! That's what Cold Turkey was looting before. Leaping lettuce, that's it! I'm paying dollars to Dawg biscuits that he's after the ice in that exhibit. Just before the rest of the zoo crew go off into the snow to try and stop the robbery. Wait up, you guys! I just drank a whole case of antifreeze! And in this panel, there is a good gag of Rubber Duck having stretched his feet into skis to get through the snow. At the museum, Cold Turkey is waiting for the zoo crew, and he taunts Fastback into attacking before freezing the ground and causing our hero in the half-shell to slip and spin in the air before coming crashing down. And while fighting the snowbirds, Captain Carrot just thinks to himself, I must be Pot Snowshoe Rabbit, 'cause I'm having an easier time on this icy floor than the rest of my teammates. Which doesn't make a whole lot of sense given that just Fastback has tripped, and we don't see anyone else having any trouble. Rubber Duck stretches and extends his fists out, delivering some pretty decent superhero quips. Let me land a big hand, Cap. After all, a bird in the hand is worth two on the lamb. In fact, these huge haymakers of mine can knock a half-dozen sleazy squabs out cold. But Cold Turkey just seems to have it out for Fastback. Very clever, Rubber Duck. But what will you do when I turn your Fastback into a Sub-Zero hero? But Yankee Poodle is able to save Fastback while delivering a simultaneous blow to Cold Turkey. Our villain tries to rally his henchmen to attack, but Captain Carrot just sees red and clobbers them all in one hop. The snowbirds try to flee, running through Pig Iron's legs as he feels the antifreeze wearing off and having a tough time keeping his balance. But luckily the captain grabs onto a door sill, kicking the henchmen up into the air so Pig Iron can knock them out into a pile. Alley Catabra makes her only contribution to this scene by tying Cold Turkey's wattles up around his beak. The team just stands around and admires their work of foiling the robbery, only for Captain Carrot to point out that once again, somehow Cold Turkey escaped again! There's no cleverness to this at all. It just reeks of lazy writing just to get to the next set piece. And I'm blaming Bridwell on this, because last issue clearly shows that Shaw knows how to write a full and coherent Zoo Crew story, and Bridwell just feels like he writes scenes, which worked well enough for the Timekeeper story, as there was a lot of clearly broken up, set pieces that were pretty entertaining. But it just does not work here, and just makes for a really jumbled story. Remember when I gave the pertinent data and said to put an asterisk to Goldberg doing the pencils? It is because starting on page 12 and for the rest of the issue, I am convinced that Scott Shaw took over on art duties once again, because the art looks noticeably more detailed and dynamic. It is much more in his style, and I don't even hate Goldberg's art, but Shaw just does it so much better, and the change is very noticeable. I did my best to research to back up my feelings on this, but I could not find any other reviews or analysis of this issue. So if anyone, can please tell me if I am right or wrong on this, that would be wonderful. Cold Turkey has tried to cover his tracks by conjuring up another blizzard, which has frozen Pig Iron solid. Luckily, Alley Catabra is there to magic up some hair dryers and rust remover sprays to thaw him out. But it looks like Cold Turkey really hasn't flown the coop, because he's right there taunting the zoo crew as he and his snowbirds make their escape, and I am now seriously wondering if this issue got majorly redone at some point, because this is like a huge incongruity on, back-to-back pages. This just does not make any sense. Back at the Z building, the zoo crew are, as Ross would put it, angsting around the conference table with Captain Carrot berating the team for having lost to Cold Turkey twice, which is really kind of throwing Alley Catabra and Fastback under the bus, I think. And Yankee Poodle does try to look on the bright side, saying that they have thwarted both jewelry heists. Again, a lot of we there. And Captain Carrot grumbles, that's another thing that bugs this bunny. Faludas, Cold Turkey's gang isn't very interested in their loot. Okay, that's a decent joke. Our leader starts to wonder if all of the blizzards are just a diversion, and would like to know where the blizzard's at its coldest so as to lead them to their foul fiend. Yankee Poodle, after taking another jibe at not being a meteorologist, says she does know one at Cluxley University, and Alley Catabra immediately zaps the gang there. Cluxley University's weather department is staffed by Marx Brothers parodies, fitting for a riff on Huxley University from Horse Feathers, and I will say the best gag on the next 2 pages is that the Harpo character has completely empty speech balloons, which is a real nice way to translate his mute shtick for a comic book. And Yankee Poodle points out that the one they need is... That's him, dears! Dr. Hugo Z. Quackenbird! Oh, doctor! Forgive the intrusion, darling, but you were highly recommended by my dear friend Rover Barkett. Oh, really? Well, I won't hold that against you. Fastback is admiring the lab, while Harpo begins pulling gags on him, really getting the turtle hot under his shell. And Captain Carrot explains why they're there, but Dr. Hugo Z. Quackenbird isn't paying attention, just looking at the most recent issue of Play Duck, which includes some pictorials of Cluxley's co-eds, which little gross for one of their professors to be drooling over. The captain getting annoyed. Dr. Quackenbird! This is an important issue, and we desperately need your help. You're not kidding. It's an important issue. Did you see the centerfold? But the dog finally starts looking for the coolest spot in the blizzard, while Rubber Duck begins looking at his Play Duck issue with his tongue out, to Alley Catabra's annoyance, and Quackenbird finds the location they are looking for is in Det Valley. Harpo continues to pull gags on Fastback, which makes him swear. Ooh, horse feathers! Horse feathers? Congratulations, you just said the secret void. You win a 4-year scholarship to Cluxley U, or a 4-year subscription to Play Duck magazine. Look, I like the Marx Brothers, but this is too much in 2 pages, and it just comes out of nowhere, and this whole scene could have easily either been expanded upon or cut altogether. It is just another set piece in this issue. The Zoo Crew zap back to their HQ to get the Zoo Cruiser to fly to Det Valley, speculating what Cold Turkey might be after. Yankee Poodle bets that he is after Det Valley Scotty, a rich but eccentric hermit who occasionally comes into Follywood for some fun and pays with nothing but solid gold nuggets. Why they need the Zoo Cruiser in the first place, and why all this exposition dump, I don't know. The book then cuts to Scotty's remote cabin, now covered in snow, while the hermit shivers inside, bemoaning that he's always hated the stuff and moved to Det Valley to get away from it. Cold Turkey knocks on his door, saying he wants what he has. Scotty steps out and blusters, but the snowbirds just strong-arm him back into the cabin as Cold Turkey begins making his threats. And Det Valley Scotty really should have been a Scrooge McDuck parody or a Howard Hughes riff who got a name drop on the previous page or something, because otherwise he is again another completely nondescript character whom the ending of this issue hangs upon, and we already have one of those as our villain. Cold Turkey tells Scotty that he knows about a secret gold mine and not to play dumb. Scotty is forced to show him where it is, but when the canine tries to make his escape, Cold Turkey blasts him with his glacier gun. Monologuing of his ice-controlling devices and prowess with them, Cold Turkey guesses that the canine would prefer to stay alive, and page 18 is a whole bunch of nothing but forced cold puns, and there is no charisma amongst anyone here. Scotty relents, and as Cold Turkey cackles in delight, the Zoo Cruiser flashes in as the heroic team makes their entrance over a snowbank. Well, it sure ain't the Aurora Borealis! At this time of year, in this part of the country, located entirely within your kitchen? Cold Turkey thought that the jewelry thefts would have held them up? No, they thwarted him twice and had nothing really holding them up past that? And so the frozen fowl goes for his glacier gun, but Fastback super speeds in and grabs it, tossing it to Pig Iron, who then eats it. Captain Carrot takes out 2 of the snowbirds, kicking them on his hop down. Here you go! Things might start looking up for you with this pair of lucky rabbit's feet. Well, lucky for me anyway. As Rubber Duck takes the other 2 out by bowling himself down on them. Alley Cat Tabber ensures that the henchmen are properly secured as Cold Turkey starts to make his escape on his ice cycle snow sled. The team crams back into the zoo cruiser to chase after him, determined not to lose the villain for a third time. While slightly better than page 18, there are a lot of bad cold/snow puns. The zoo crew chase Cold Turkey to his base, which is a very nondescript cold tank thing. Again, a wasted opportunity. Give me a parody of anything. Have it look like an igloo on wheels. I don't care. Just anything. So at first glance, the team looks at it and says that it appears to be impregnable. We've tried nothing, we're all out of ideas. While from inside the tank, Cold Turkey launches his frost cannon at the team, but Yankee Poodle very easily just uses one of her repel beams at it, and it rebounds, destroying the tank and leaving Cold Turkey at their mercy. Congrats, gang! We've just won the Cold War! There's a whole lot of "we" going on in this issue, Captain. The text box on the next page also mentions, in parentheses, that the weather control device was also in the tank and thus destroyed. Gee, wouldn't it have been nice to have seen and not told that? Southern California is thus returned to normal as Cold Turkey is getting hauled away in a paddy wagon. Pig Iron says that Cold Turkey tried to conquer the world, but only inadvertently caused a good deed instead. At no point in this issue was world domination ever on the table for Cold Turkey. He was just a thief. World domination would have been some sort of motivation to give us anything. Also, what good deed? He made Death Valley slightly milder for a bit? Piss off. Our issue finally ends with the Zoo Crew shaking hands with Scotty like he's been a central part of this whole issue and really means something. The Hermit offers Captain Carrot a reward of gold bricks, but he just turns it down as they are heroes and it's what they do. Scotty waves the team off in their zoo cruiser into the sunset as Cold Turkey is sneezing his head off in his jail cell. Hooray! This is the worst issue in the series. There is no way any of the next 7 issues are going to be worse than this. I did not harp on it too much at the time, but basically last issue advertised this as a filler that you could probably skip while they focused their energy on the next 2-parter. That is no way anyone should ever create a comic book, and that is an even worse way to sell a comic book. I gave the handful of good jokes in this issue because most of them went over like a lead balloon. Issue 4 used to bug me, and I would have said it would have been my worst because of the wasted potential for not doing enough superhero headquarter gags. This issue makes that one look like the fourth world of ideas. The first act is just 4 set pieces, all with the same payoff. What this issue needed was little cheese. The first page or 2 could have had him being inducted and be a part of the events. I loved last issue so much. And I'll say this one last time, Cold Turkey was a wet fart of a villain. There's no parody of any kind or anything to glom onto. I said Jack Benny earlier, but if they combined Cold Turkey and the Snowbirds into 3 supervillains and have them molded after the Three Stooges, that would have been something. The issue could have easily had the Zoo Crew break off into teams like in earlier issues. Act 1. One group would be fighting Larry at the Bob Hoopo show. Act 2 would be another group fighting Curly at Cluxley University. And the final act would be fighting Mo. And it would make sense that he'd think that the Zoo Crew would be distracted while he's trying to rob, I don't know, W.C. Fields? They can even still just be jewelry thieves. But the parody could carry the weaknesses of that motivation. A through line of old-timey comedians would give this issue some sort of identity. I need something to make me laugh. And with that, let's get on to our Looney Tunes pairing. The High and the Flighty originally released February 18th, 1956. As of the day I'm recording this, it just had its 70th anniversary last week. It's almost like I'm a professional. The short was directed by Robert McKimson, story by Ted Pierce, produced by Edward Seltzer, starring Mel Blanc, music by Carl Stalling, animation by Ted Bakinski, Russ Dyson, Keith Darling, and George Grand Prix, who is uncredited. We have layouts by Robert Gribbick and backgrounds by Richard H. Thomas. This issue didn't leave me with any inspired choice, so Turkey to Rooster is the best connection that I have, and yeah, both Barnyard birds, and I did want to cover Foghorn Leghorn at some point. I wouldn't say that he's one of my favorites, but I do like him, and I was greatly amused by some memes a few years ago where people had him lecturing various movie and TV characters. Mike Ehrmantraut's dying speech to Walter White from Breaking Bad in particular made me laugh. Originally, he and Barnyard Dawg played second fiddle to Henry Hawk in their debut short, Walkie Talkie Hockey, but the two quickly stole the show with their never-ending battle of pranks. Foghorn Leghorn was created by Robert McKimson, and he was the only director to do all of his Foghorn's 29 Golden Era shorts. And there were a lot of good choices for Foghorn, but I decided to go with this one, in part because it was the only time he ever teamed up with Daffy Duck during the Golden Era. I will say for completion's sake that Foghorn Leghorn is a parody of Kenny Delmar's character Senator Cleghorn from a 1940s Fred Allen radio show, but like 99% of the people listening to me, that's the extent of my knowledge about that, and Foghorn is their only point of reference. This short takes its name from the 1954 John Wayne picture, The High and the Mighty. It begins with Foghorn waking up out of his chicken coop with a mighty Tarzan yell before bouncing a ball and singing the Camptown Ladies. The Camptown Ladies. Foghorn makes his way over to a sleeping and leashed up Barnyard Dawg at his doghouse, grabbing a plank of wood as he goes. After lifting Dawg's tail up and walloping his butt a few times with the plank of wood, Foghorn makes a beeline to the clearly marked rope limit line, which I am guessing he has put up because why would farmers show that this is as far as the dog can go? Barnyard Dawg is of course barking and chasing him until he gets to the rope limit line and is choked back. Still barking, Foghorn tells him to shut up and sticks the ball in his mouth before popping it, sending Dawg flying. Now walking past a wooden tower, Foghorn of course falls for the "Don't look up" sign as Barnyard Dawg drops a watermelon on his head. This of course calls for a massive retaliation is all that Foghorn can mutter, as Daffy Duck enters the picture, popping his head up over the fence. And in this short, he is a salesman for the Ace Novelty Company of Walla Walla, Washington. And I'm really surprised that wasn't Acme. It's not like Chuck Jones had a monopoly on that name. Daffy makes his first sale to Foghorn with a spring-loaded bone so he can pull the next prank. Foghorn waddles up to a resting Barnyard Dawg, offering to bury the hatchet, and Dawg just covers his head with his paws. And Foghorn just goes, "Not on your pointed head, boy!" Which, really dark joke, but I love it. Twisting the bone as Dawg takes it, the mud then goes spring-shaped. Walking away, Foghorn muses to himself that he hated to spring that one on the old bonehead, laughing at his own joke, to which Barnyard Dawg can only scoff. Daffy is such a bastard of an X-Factor in this short, making his next sale to Barnyard Dawg. As Foghorn is walking along the fence door, he is gifted a present with wire spooling out of it that he doesn't pay attention to or can't see. And Foghorn is delighted to see that it's his favorite fruit, corn on the cob, with holding grips attached. And as he goes to town on it, Barnyard Dawg just smirks and throws the high voltage box on, causing Foghorn's feathers to start going off like popcorn. After putting on his new set Ood of feathers, Daffy makes his next sale to Foghorn, the Chattanooga Choo Choo, wherein Foghorn plays a record of a steam train as he puffs on a corncob pipe to simulate smoke while running behind a cutout of a train, running towards the doghouse. But Barnyard Dawg lifts his house out of the way while Foghorn runs onto the nearby railroad tracks, only to hear the train whistle of an oncoming commuter train. Holding his cutout for dear life, Foghorn is of course run over. Daffy helps bandage Foghorn up and offers to make it up to him by selling him the Pipe Full of Fun Kit number 7. We cut as Foghorn is setting the next prank up, and as he is pulling the rubber band for it back, he sees Barnyard Dawg pulling another rubber band back in the opposite direction. The two converse and confirm that they both bought the Pipe Full of Fun kit number 7. Foghorn realizes that the two have been flim-flammed and offers Dawg to work together. And I do like that the two of them are working together for this last joke in the short, and it works even better if this is not the first short of the two that you've seen. Meanwhile, Daffy is counting his cash as he overhears the two, smiling and yelling as a team, "We ought to tar and feather him! Hanging's too good for that duck!" Realizing that the jig is up, Daffy groans and makes his way towards the fence door. But as he opens it, Barnyard Dawg unleashes the rubber band and inflicts the Pipe Full of Fun kit number 7 on him, ending with Daffy getting stuffed into a bottle. The short ends with Foghorn going, "You know, there might be a market for bottled duck," which is not the strongest punch out, and that is something McKimson would occasionally struggle with. But this was a good short all the same, so I'm not going to get too hung up on it. There is not a lot of plot to this short, but it is full of jokes, none of which overstay their welcome, and everything moves at a quick pace. It is missing some of the Foghorn go-to lines like, "That's a joke, son!" But the good outweighs the bad, and this may not be an all-timer, but it is a good watch all the same, and I would definitely watch some other Foghorn shorts with characters like Henrietta, Egghead Jr., and Henry Hawk, just to see how he and Barnyard Dawg work with other characters, because Daffy being here was just a little special treat, and I do wish that there were more classic era shorts with some crossovers like this. So I got nothing left to say, but that's all, folks!